Is she real? She's annoying. Is she accurate? Is she fake? She's fake. Is she? Are these real spoilers? Is this real? She's fake. How many sources does she have? I think she's fake. Is this real news? Should I get my hopes up? She's been accurate. This could be true. What does this mean? I'm not gonna get my hopes up. She is accurate with soap operas though. She's fake. What if it's true? She's real. She is what she is. Should we believe?
It's a bird. It's a plane. It's a dumpster. No, it's Spoiler Girl 1. Back for quite a quick update on the Big Brother 24 live feeds, because the live feeds themselves remain boring. We're only still getting the inside of the house that's going on, not the split house on the outside. If it's still outside, that's the speculation that they're no longer outside because of the wall yowlers. But the biggest speculation comes from the Spoiler Girl account on Twitter. This Twitter account has, over the past few seasons, been kind of controversial. It's gotten stuff right, but it's gotten a few things wrong. And sometimes Spoiler Girl on Twitter will say things like, I could go have dinner with Julie Chen and Les Moonves because we're like friends. And then when it says stuff like that, it comes off like some persona. But this season, anytime I've seen Spoiler Girl on Twitter, I don't follow her, but I've seen her be quite accurate this season, which makes me believe that she is right about what is happening on the outside, that the wall yowlers actually did get through and maybe change a few things. Her tweet is saying that Terrence did use the veto and take down Turner, and it is now Kyle and Joseph on the block. Is that because of the wall yowler? We really don't know. And we don't know that this means Kyle's going home and that Joseph is staying. This could just be some over-the-top ploy from Kyle, Terrence, Alyssa to try and pull Turner in closer to them, but still vote Joseph out of the house. We don't know if Terrence threw Kyle under the bus for throwing the leftovers under the bus, and if Turner knows that or not. Turner and Alyssa would be the ones voting in this scenario. You would think Alyssa would be keeping Kyle, but who knows what's really happening. It's a way to force us to watch Wednesday night's episode, which I don't know if I will still do anyway. So I don't know if Joseph fans should get their hopes up too much. Just because these two are on the block doesn't mean Joseph is staying. My original video today was going to talk about Joseph, but before we get there, let's once again talk about production. Production is the problem. Production has always been the problem. One of my first Big Brother videos on this channel 2 years ago during Small Stars, I said the show will never get better because of this production team. As long as they keep this production team, it will stay the same. Those 2 years ago, we were talking about how Robin Cass was fired, so maybe casting will change, but look at the casting this year. You will always see that production will forever be the problem, and CBS is the problem too, because they are complacent in letting the show get away with their shitty edits, their shitty twists, and them letting racism stay in the game, which has been one of the biggest problems with the show over the past decade. And we see this season, it might be one of the worst ever since Big Brother 15 with the racism. Kyle using racism as gameplay, I said this in the comments over some of my last few videos, just change the rules. Racism should not be able to be used as gameplay. It just shouldn't. There's plenty of other rules. Some the show actually does put a kibosh to, like threats in the game. Some rules that they have in the game, though, that they still don't even enforce, like people using powers that don't exist and saying they exist. That's happened some of the past few seasons, and the production seemed to let it fly, even though the rules state otherwise. But nonetheless, I still think there should be a rule against racism in the game. Or I've talked about this so many times, how Big Brother UK used to put the kibosh on racism quickly or give a quick warning, and if they did it again, they're kicked out of the house. People were kicked out of BB UK a lot. And I didn't even watch that many seasons, but the seasons I saw people get kicked out. But a big problem with production you could also find in the edit, why the show is so miserable, why the social dynamics are so miserable. We've seen the show try to edit Kyle as this golden boy, and not until Newsweek picked up an article about him did they finally add Kyle into the edit being racist, but they didn't add him into the edit until a couple of episodes of the edit trying to make it seem like he had a reason for targeting the minorities, because Taylor was saying she wanted to keep Jasmine because she's another black woman. She doesn't want to be the HOH that gets her out. We see this week that Taylor's going to vote for Jasmine to go, though. But even before that Jasmine and Taylor conversation, 2 weeks before, in fact, is when Kyle started his little race war idea and using racism as gameplay. And with that edit, we see Joseph get under-edited. Joseph, who has played literally one of the only dynamic games in the house, maybe besides Kyle, but Kyle's game is marred by the racism. But Joseph's edit has been under-edited to lift up Kyle. So we see production trying to over-edit the white guy who is very problematic, while not editing in the Arab men, even though they don't have a lot of Arab representation over this show in 24 seasons. Problems with the production team. So if Joseph were to go this week, his edit is abysmal, and it's just a slap in the face to their little 50% diversity thing that CBS puts in. If your show doesn't get it right, it still doesn't make sense to me. We saw CBS and Jeff Probst and CBS pat themselves on the back for their last 2 seasons being so diverse, and like it's just this really safe show on CBS. I mean, their editing still needs work over at Survivor. But what we've seen them try to change, even though a lot of it comes off as performative. Survivor tries to be the good little show and show their diversity in the edits, at least. Big Brother has this season last season, and it's like, hey, you got your black winner, we're going to go back to the racism now, and we're going to protect the problematic people. And now we see production having to scramble with their twist because they didn't nip it in the bud with their rules, or have a rule to nip the racism and problematic behavior in the bud, and they casted a bunch of problematic people, and then they wonder why they have wall yellers. The wall yellers have to deal to put a kibosh on the game, on the racism used as gameplay, because production won't do it. Production is the problem. Lastly, inside on the actual feeds, all there is to really talk about is Monty continuing to be or feel bad about his behavior at the beginning of the game, believing Paloma over Taylor, the way Taylor was treated in the first 2 weeks. Monty's done a lot of apologizing for Taylor over the past several weeks. I do think Monty is legit about it. He's done the most apologizing out of anyone. So it's been nice to see Monty grow in this game, not only as a player at times, because he started off very poorly as a player too, but also as a person. So good on Monty for growing. A lot of these other people, especially people that have already left the game pre-jury, still trying to stick to their bullshit. It's crazy. Once again, to reiterate though, production did not deal with their racism problem this season. They didn't deal with they tried to give a golden boy edit to one of their most problematic players since the fucking spaghetti-haired loser earlier this season, I guess.